Thank you, Mayor Ginther, for your leadership at the conference and for the kind introduction, and I will follow up shortly to discuss the terms of our ceremonial sports wager. I think even as a mayor emeritus, I can do that as my Irish take on Ohio State. Thanks to Mayor Holt, Mayor Gloria, and the whole team here at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and above all, thank you to America's mayors for your great work and for the chance to join you one more time as Secretary of Transportation. I can't think of a better group to be with today for what I expect will be my last public appearance while holding this office. And before I go any further, I want to acknowledge what several fellow mayors and so many of our fellow Americans are going through in California right now because of the destruction brought about by wildfires there. We are all with Los Angeles and the people of California, and our administration's been hard at work even in these late days and hours to support the recovery and relief efforts. I've been in touch with my counterparts in California to offer our department support, and I know that the community of American mayors is here for Mayor Bass and for everyone who is fighting that devastation. The community of mayors has always been there to support one another in difficult moments and in hopeful and ambitious moments too. And what you have achieved in this organization every January in this room is an extraordinary thing. Think how rare this is. This thing you are part of right now as we speak, a gathering in Washington, D.C. of senior elected officials from every corner of the country and both parties who make common cause in the face of shared challenges and who actually like each other. Official Washington could learn a lot from you. And even today, after years in federal service, I view the world and I view my work so often through the lens of a mayor. As I have said to so many of you when I've traveled to your communities, it bears mention that the job of a mayor has only become more important and more demanding and more difficult since I proudly wore that title a few years ago. But many of you have also heard me remark in your cities that sure would have been nice back in my mayor days if there was a president and an administration and a U.S. DOT who delivered a $1.2 trillion infrastructure package to be a wind at your back. But I didn't come here to say you're welcome. More than anything, I came here to say thank you, because it is the Conference of the Mayors as a whole and so many of you individually who are such a force in shaping and passing that infrastructure law that we're all so proud of. And while we talk about it today as though it couldn't have been any other way, many of you recall that we spent so much of 2021 facing deep skepticism in official Washington from people who doubted that it could be passed at all, especially on a bipartisan basis. But we did it together. President Biden signed it in November that first year, and with the funding now in hand, so many of you are at the forefront of actually delivering those projects. This job of secretary has brought me to every one of our nation's 50 states at least once. And if I didn't get the chance to appear in your community by now, chances are our funding has. In fact, we now count over 72,000 projects funded by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Over 20,000 of which are now complete, at least as far as the federal role is concerned. The proportions of the work are so extraordinary that it's, even for me, hard to get my head around. I reflected one way of thinking about it is if I were to visit 3 of our projects every day for the rest of my life, I still would not live long enough to see them all. There's a few more ways to illustrate this by the numbers. More than 207,000 miles of roadway are being repaired or improved from coast to coast. More than 12,300 bridges are being repaired or rebuilt, including 18 of our nation's most economically significant bridges. More than 1,500 airports are modernizing their terminals, expanding operations, or improving their runways. I could go on and on and on. I promise not to. What's even more compelling than the statistics has been the stories. I've talked to students who will have a safe way to get to school instead of walking under a bridge on a road with no sidewalk as trucks go by on that same road. I've talked to commuters who will have many minutes a day and therefore many dozens of hours a year of their lives back because of better, faster routes to work. Places I have seen projects take shape, from multi-billion-dollar efforts like the high-speed rail linking Nevada and Southern California, or the Hudson River tunnels in New York and New Jersey, to six-figure streetscape improvements that are going to save lives, or projects like the one to take just under $1 million to help an airport in South Dakota upgrade its general aviation terminal from a modified mobile home to the permanent structure that that community deserves. We are proud and we are excited, not just about the value that the projects bring when they are complete, but the value being created in the process of completing them. I remember taking office after some lean and hungry years in South Bend, Indiana, when the per capita income of my city was in the neighborhood of $18,000 per year, with so many more workers than jobs, so many more houses than residents. At the time, the building trades in particular were being told to basically pack up and give up. And we were being told our whole community might not have a future at all. I went back to South Bend a few weeks ago and saw not only the extraordinary work that my successor, Mayor Mueller, has done there to build on the growth that we achieved on my watch, but hundreds and hundreds of apprentices joining the trades, getting good paying work, with the electrical workers local alone telling me that more than 36 different projects they were working on traced back to some of the legislation that our administration had passed. And I could tell a similar story about the community I now call home, Traverse City, Michigan. I'm not involved in local government there, except as a voter. But I look around and see the same pattern of federal transportation funding benefiting our community. The transit system, Beta, got a new headquarters. The airport is getting new passenger boarding bridges. The Maritime Academy is even getting a tugboat for training. And the talk of the town last year, the Grandview Parkway project, just completed with our formula dollars, is being followed by what's now on the front page of the newspaper described as a Grandview 2.0 project to break ground with funds from our Rural Surface Transportation Program that's going to redesign a dangerous intersection. And that's not some exceptional windfall in a region where I happen to live. This kind of thing is happening in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of communities across a country like yours. And importantly, it is happening in red and blue and purple states. It is happening in the low-income communities too often left out in the past. And it's happening in rural and tribal communities that were too frequently passed over by federal funds. It's been a big ship to turn. In fact, when Chasten and I left South Bend and prepared to come to Washington to take this job, my former public works director there told me I was going to become like the trim rudder on a supertanker. And often that's how it's felt. Big things have changed. The bearing and direction has changed, and it's changed for the better. So the bottom line to the mayors of America is I am proud to report to you that today every form of U.S. transportation is in better condition than we got here. Now, of course, when we got here, things were in terrible crisis. COVID had created the most intense and complex set of transportation disruptions since 9/11. Airlines were at risk of collapse. Supply chains were obstructed. So much was going wrong. But when I say that we have made things better together, I don't only mean how we successfully overcame that crisis, though that would have been enough to dominate the work of an administration. But I mean, of course, something bigger. The changes that we have made to the very trajectory of our U.S. transportation systems. The trajectory of our built infrastructure is that it is at long last getting better and not worse. The backlog at long last getting smaller and not larger. The trajectory of our air traffic control hiring is that the number of controllers is finally growing and not shrinking. The trajectory of roadway safety in this country is that roadway deaths in our country are at last declining and not rising. Our ports have operated at higher capacity than when we got here. Fewer flights are being canceled. Airline passengers have more rights, as do travelers with disabilities. So do railroad workers, and the list goes on and on. And while an enormous amount of credit goes to President Biden's leadership and the work of the team that I've been so proud and privileged to lead at the U.S. Department of Transportation, so much of what we have achieved is also a credit to what we have done together in partnership with local leaders. I don't know how it's been for you, but as mayor, I found that we spent much of my first year making tough decisions, laying groundwork, setting things into motion, spending political capital, upsetting people sometimes when necessary. So that by the fourth year, the community saw the benefit, gave us some credit, and gave us running room to do more things. In the case of federal infrastructure work, as proud as I am of what we have done, I'm cognizant of the reality that 4 years has not been nearly enough. And so, while we are leaving office with transportation in this country demonstrably better than we found it, the reality is that so much remains to be done, and so much will depend on what happens next. And I don't just mean what happens next in Washington. Indeed, much of what is about to happen in America, including what is about to happen with federal infrastructure policy and funds, is not in Washington's hands, but yours. I mean that both in the specific sense of infrastructure improvement and in the broader sense of our society. On infrastructure improvement, I have to note that the nature of our work is such that so much of what we did in the first half of this decade will bear fruit mainly in the second half of this decade. Though thousands of projects are already complete, thousands more are just going into construction or still in the planning and design phases. And in so many cases, it will fall to you to deliver them. But I hope that we have set a durable, new standard of partnership for our department to support your communities in getting that done. So much depends on you. Safety outcomes, including continuing that decline, now underway for 10 quarters in a row in roadway deaths, will continue to matter for the U.S. Department of Transportation. But so much of it depends on those decisions made closer to home. And I hope you'll continue to look to ensure that your community approaches the standard that some mayors in this room have already achieved for at least 1 year of 0 roadway deaths, using better design and practices in partnership with each other and with various public and private sector partners to get that done. And as technologies now underway continue to develop, drones and eVTOLs, automated vehicles, artificial intelligence, your role will continue to matter more than ever. But when I point to the enduring importance of your leadership, respectively and collectively, I am not talking only about the trajectory of our transportation systems, but the trajectory of our society. And that's what I most want to leave you with a sense of the stakes being higher than ever, now that Chasten and I are raising our son and daughter, Gus and Penelope, to grow up and live in the world that is being created, yes, by global leaders and national leaders, but in so many ways by local leaders. Here, today, even after 4 years in Washington, doing work that, of course, I'm so proud of, I still believe more strongly than ever that societally, politically, and civically, our salvation must come from the local. All politics is local, as is often said. All politics is also an exquisitely human enterprise. And my experience has been that mayors, both in how you relate to each other and in how you relate to the public, are most attuned to this. And with social and political trust now at crisis levels in our society, you can develop the foundation of new and better forms of trust that will be needed for things to improve in this country. At a time where polarization and division dominates our national life, you, who know what it means to be a living, breathing, walking symbol of what people in your diverse and sometimes divided community all share and have in common, you will be needed more than ever to build trust and common purpose. At a time with misinformation gaining as much authority as truth in the public square, you, who live with the most immediate and inescapable realities, hard facts about what is and isn't working, the simple reality of a hole in the road or a collapsing house that cannot be denied or obscured with bluster or falsehoods. You will be needed more than ever to help people stay in touch with reality, to remind people that there is indeed such a thing as fact and fiction, and the job of leaders includes helping people sort out which is which. And at a time when digital communication is leaving us, paradoxically, often less connected amid all those connections and less informed amid all of that information, less connected and less informed than before. You, who cut your teeth in community meetings, so many community meetings that we come to exchange war stories about here. who live in the same city and sometimes in the same neighborhoods as bitter political rivals. You who get more done on the sidelines of a chicken dinner or while being accosted at the grocery store than anybody could get done from behind a keyboard on Facebook or X. You will be needed more than ever to bring the people you serve and lead back offline, back into those offline spaces, those neighborhood meetings and church coffees and civic and political and social processes offline in the same room, where we are all better humans and better citizens. So the bottom line is this: the community of American mayors is about to matter more than ever in these coming years. And as for me, I will be there to support you any way I can. I haven't decided what shape that will take, but I do know the things I care about: the trajectory of our infrastructure, the responsiveness of our democracy, the makeup of our economy, the future of our cities. This will be at stake in so many ways in the years ahead, in my work and certainly in yours. And I hope you will call on me anytime that I can be of help. So I want to thank you one more time, mayors, for all that we've done together. And since you don't hear it enough, in the council chamber or in the grocery store, let me say with all sincerity, keep up the great work. Thanks very much.